I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand and salute the flag?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Tracy? Dave? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
One more. Duncan?
He's for
He has to unmute.
Oh, is he? Okay, maybe yes.
I think Duncan has to unmute. Oh, you can't hear him.
Hello?
Oh,
Yep.
We can hear you, Duncan.
I raised my hand. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
I didn't see it. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Tammy.
Okay, so tonight we're going to be looking at the program component. So Jana has been working with the administrators and supervisors to put tonight's review in place. Just a reminder, this is an active working preliminary budget, and as new information, updated numbers become available, Jana is quickly updating the preliminary budget as we go along. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Janet, and in conjunction with the administrators reporting off-site, we will be reviewing it tonight.
okay. So before the administrators share their building level numbers, I will do a quick review of the 2020-21 approved budget, the rollover budget that was reviewed with the board in January, and the status of where we are currently stand as we work on the 21-22 budget. So for the budget we have right now is $32,253,015.
Call is now being recorded.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Should I start over?
No, you're good.
Okay. For the rollover budget, which was presented in January, we had an increase of $731,205. For the preliminary budget, we are looking at a decrease from the rollover budget of $237,773, or 0.7, or negative 0.73%. But we do have an increase from the approved budget of $493,432, or 1.53%. The adjustments that have been made since the rollover budget are Questar 3 BOCES. Some of the rates have come in, and we've adjusted for that. We are still waiting for the cross-contract rates with other BOCES and NERIC rates. We have an increase to the transfer to capital due to the decrease in principal and interest of our loans, and a recommendation from fiscal advisors to keep the district state share the same each year, around $380,000. We have a retirement replacement breakage, which you received in a handout, which is $241,979. Health insurance premiums did not come in at the anticipated rate of 7%. It came in at a 0.5% increase. So now I will turn it over to the administrators to go over their budgets.
So before we get into some of the more details of the budget, we'd just like to refresh everybody's memory of the district goals. So the three goals that are listed up there are the adopted goals for this current school year. And we'd like to mention these just because as we, as an administrative team, work on the budget, we really do work to keep that K-12 focus and make sure that all of our fiscal planning is aligned to our district goals that we have adopted for the year.
Good evening.
The numbers you see on the slide were gathered from our BED, Basic Education Data Systems Day, which occurs in October and is an opportunity to, among other things, gather current enrollment figures. Figures on the left are our current numbers, while the figure directly across are anticipated figures, which will continue to fluctuate throughout the year. As you can see, for the K-12 total, we are anticipating to remain relatively consistent with this year's numbers. While the totals and building breakdowns are presented here, you can refer to your narrative for a grade-by-grade breakdown. I'll now pass things over to Brooke and then Denise to clarify 2 other points on the slide.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So our special education numbers are based on an increase of students that have moved into the district, as well as newly classified students. Denise?
I would just like to make sure that everybody is aware that the numbers for the 2021 school year for athletics are estimated due to the COVID situation that we're in right now.
And can I interrupt for a minute? Who's ever got their TV playing in the background, either mute your mic or turn your TV off. All I'm hearing is Joe Biden.
Are we good?
Yeah, we have everybody's, is muted.
I have a quick question before moving on to technology.
Okay.
On the first slide, homeschool population, that's homeschool, not just remote instruction, right?
That is homeschooled. So we saw those numbers increase this year based definitely on the 2 options of in-person, hybrid. Some parents chose to actually homeschool their students. So we are expecting, well, it will depend on what school looks like in September. We hope to see a return of some of those students back to Greenville. But we felt because that impacted the enrollment above, it was important to also show that information.
Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up on that? Is that?
That's not remote.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's mainly elementary. I know you might not have the numbers, but mainly is it late elementary or late secondary? The vast majority.
Without me saying, I would think elementary, but I know it's definitely at the kindergarten level, but it definitely hit K into middle school too. So we can get that actual review and how many families it really was.
Yeah.
We'll get that for you.
Okay, so the technology department continues to follow 2 goals that guide our purchases. Equity in all of our learning spaces and equity for all our students. Of course, this past year we saw a lot of transitioning our learning spaces so teachers could use existing technology for remote video instruction. And we tried to work hard to make sure we use our existing technology, and that worked out pretty well. Equity for students, we were fortunate that we made a move to one-to-one computing for students a few years ago, which made our transition to hybrid and remote learning a little easier for us. But 2 other things that we needed to do this year was we worked with families to assist with internet connectivity issues, and we've talked about that here before. Basically providing advice for people subscribing to internet services, and then also the district providing a number of hotspots for families where appropriate. And also providing equities for students, we made provisions at the elementary school. Even though they're one-to-one, those devices typically haven't gone home. We made arrangements this year for that to happen for remote instruction. So governing all of this, all our purchases, 4 or 5 years ago, we went into this long-range equipment purchasing plan. Really the goal here was try to alleviate the ups and downs in the budget and have a steady cost for technology. And this graph really shows that. I put a box around our current year that you can see there. And you'll see that for this year, we'll be phasing out some devices. Grades 1, 5, 6, and 9 will be getting new devices. But generally, we're trying to change out a third of the student devices every year, so that we're not hit with a big round of devices that we have to replace. This is the budgetary impact of that last graph. And we've utilized in the past a 4-year lease purchase through Questar, and this helps us to maximize state aid when we purchase these devices. And again, the goal here is to attempt to cut down on the up and down with the budget every year. Now we did have to phase this in, so there was some increase to the budget over the last several years. And you'll notice that for this year, there is a $10,000 increase. And this really goes back to when we first started this out back in 17-18. We were trying to minimize the impact to the budget back then, and we were able to utilize some end-of-year funding to help us get started. And now that this year has come around, we need to have that $10,000 back in there to purchase the 4-year plan for our next purchase. And then this slide is a summary of all technology expenditures. Right away, you're going to notice $32,000 increase on BOCES services. And basically, this is 3 parts that make up that increase. One is the $10,000 I just talked about for the lease purchase. That's a BOCES service. 2, we also were required this year to start paying for our Google Enterprise services, as were a number of school districts. Google is still free for education, but to use the services such as video recording and Google Meets above a certain amount of participants, we have to pay a fee. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other things that go along with that, added features that our teachers utilize and benefit from, so we needed to be a part of that. And, of course, they're renaming. This will be about the 4th time they've renamed. They're soon to be Google Workspace for Education Plus. That's going to be their new name. So, in case your inquiring minds want to know. The third thing is we purchased a software application from Explore Learning. That's again a BOCES service, and that added to that increase as well. All other technology costs really remained flat from last year.
Scott,
Yes.
I just have a question. Have we had a chance to evaluate whether the hardware needs to be upgraded at all for certain grades? So, for example, I'm thinking specifically at the middle school. I believe they have Chromebooks.
Correct.
Is that still appropriate, or do we find that they may need a laptop? Similarly, 11th and 12th graders, as they're getting into some of the more advanced AP work, statistics, and things like that, does the hardware have the computing power, or do we have the flexibility to address needs for small groups?
That's a great question. That is something that we look at all the time, and we have made some minor changes. I'll give you 2 examples. One, we started off in the elementary school, K through 2, all tablet iPads, basically. And we made the decision this last year to push Chromebooks down to the 2nd grade level.
Okay.
Because it was more appropriate for the applications they were utilizing. Middle school, we seem to be doing pretty good with the things that we need to run. The Chromebooks are more than adequate. We're actually looking the other way. We actually might be looking at the high school, more the high schoolers actually looking at Chromebooks instead of laptops in the future. Not entirely, because there are still applications that we're utilizing that require a laptop, but that is something that the technology committee mainly is keeping a constant pulse on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Brooke?
Good evening. This is a snippet from the School Personnel Services area. So we continue to support our special education students with a variety of services based on their needs. And this snippet, as I had called it before, that looks at the tuition. There is an increase in this area due to the fact that we've had students move into the district that have required special education needs in out-of-district placement and in-district placement, as well as the anticipation of preschool students that are currently in a special class setting that will be transitioning into our kindergarten program, as well as we always budget a little bit extra in case we do have a high-cost student move in mid-year. So that is all included in that amount. I think Brian is going to talk about this.
Good evening, everybody. So each year as building principals, one of the things that we talk to our teams at K-8 level and departments 9, 12 is really just whether certain equipment, supplies, and textbooks that they need. And, you know, when requesting, you know, whether increase or not, to make sure there's rationale for why you have some of those requests. With the equipment request for this year, you can see there is a decrease. But although there is a decrease, we still are, you know, adding some things. For example, we're looking to improve upon the music program at Ellis with some xylophones. In the middle school, you know, and this is also middle school, high school, we're looking to replace top mill drill for our technology department. Again, this benefits both middle and high school students. And again, this is just something that's wear and tear. Our tech department, technology ag department, has been very good over the past 2 years. We've been trying to, you know, do a cycle very similar to like computers where we're replacing things so that we don't all of a sudden have a bunch of things that are totally worn out. And they've been doing a great job of working with us on that. And then the reason why there's kind of a big decrease in PPS there really is just, you know, we have students who at times, you know, this is for unforeseen equipment expenses for things, for different adaptive tools, or maybe for communication devices for some of our IT students. And you know, each year we do graduate students out of the program, which has led to a reason why there is a decrease in the budget for this year. In terms of contractual requests, you know, contractual requests, and you can look in the supporting documents, but this really includes things like our IP, diploma program, Project Lead the Way that have fees each year, student assembly programs, K-12, different, you know, award ceremonies we have, repairing classroom equipment, and this really pertains to particular departments, our music department, because we do have some of our own instruments. We purchase some of the larger instruments for students to use at school here. They do at times need repair. And then also in our science department each year we have someone come in and service and clean the microscopes and our triple beam balances as examples. And then also it's like in our, at the high school level in terms of a little bit of increase this year, it's just looking at making sure they're, in terms of having our ag teachers attend some of the FFA National Convention and an ag conference, or state ag conference.
Okay. In the PPS area, we have two things. The one, there's a decrease in our mental health services, and that is due to, if you remember correctly, last year we went into a contract with the Office of Mental Health. COVID hit, they decided to change up their model to more of a remote model. And then towards the end of the school year, last year, they had a resignation of a social worker. So, which then, you know, left us to discuss, okay, how are we going to support this need? We said we had the need for a social worker. So, working with the PTS department and looking at the FEL standards along with, you know, collaborating with the PLCs and the DFIT plan, you know, we're trying to tackle a comprehensive social emotional learning support system for our students that can hopefully absorb some of those mental health needs and kind of go from there. And if there are significant mental health needs that are required to be addressed, we still can reach out to the Office of Mental Health for their support, and through their, they call it SPOA, their single point of access team, they most certainly will help some of those high-risk students. But for right now, that's why you will see a decrease in that mental health service. There also is an increase in the OT contractual service. Referencing last year, we had approved it, that increase in OT services in the budget, but unfortunately, it didn't get reflected in that budget line last year, so it's being added in this year.
Duncan, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah? Oh, I can't hear you, Duncan.
I've had a bunch. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I've been raising my hand on the mic. I have no idea why. I've got about 5. And
Okay.
we're going back to the first slide, or to Denise, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I want to know why all the figures above from bed are for the 2021 and projected for the new budget, but Denise's are for 1920 and 2021.
Denise, you're muted.
This year it's been very difficult to, with some of our programs that are not playing, so our numbers this year really fluctuated a lot. So a lot of our numbers are going to be anticipated for the following year, based on usually like the 1920 and what we normally would have had during that time, because we have lower numbers this year due to some of the COVID.
So the heading should be 2021, 22, not 2021.
No.
Correct.
No.
Okay, well, let's not look at
No.
that. Okay. Can we go down to the explanation for the raise in the IT funds from
I think we're missing the 20,
For athletics?
21, 22 is what we're
Yeah, we
missing.
don't anticipate those.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Hello,
Duncan.
can you still hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
The Questar numbers, the increase of 32,000, or I don't have the exact number in front of me, there it is. Up above, in one of the slides above, it said that part of the increase had to do with tax software. The explanation from Scott didn't say anything about tax software.
What? Tax software?
And what is tax software?
He got that from the preliminary budget update, which is slide number 3, where it says contractual costs, i.e. tax software, ESGI software, et cetera. That's what he's referring to with tax software on that slide.
Oh, the tax software is our info tax that we used for collecting taxes? But that's not in the BOCES, that's not a BOCES service.
I don't know. But it seemed to be in the previous slide. If you go back to, I think it was the 3rd slide, or maybe even the 2nd slide.
Yeah, on the 3rd side, it says contractual costs. So that's all the 400 codes.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, so that's contractual, but it's not BOCES.
That's not BOCES, no.
Okay, fine enough, thanks. Go ahead, I'm done. For the moment.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Sorry,
So
Dave.
the next area that we're going to be discussing is another familiar code, which is materials and supplies. And just as a refresher for everyone, materials and supplies, when we share these dollars with teachers for their use in their instructional programs, this includes both the standard supply orders that we create each year and the additional items that they're going to need. So at the elementary for this coming year, there's a slight increase of $900. this is actually not this does not reflect a increase per teacher. It actually reflects a correction where each year I have a stable amount that I allocate to each classroom teacher and then different amounts for other teachers in the building. And in the previous budget, the current budget that we're in, I had under budgeted due to a clerical mistake. And so this year, that $900 increase actually reflects me correcting the error I made previously. So I just wanted to be very clear about that. The PPS number that you see on this slide is a reflection of where there's an increase, reflects the need that several of the psychometric tests that are used by the district have been updated, and according to the ethical procedures related to those assessments, once an updated test is available, we need to purchase that updated tool so that we have access to most current norms and tools provided. So you'll see an increase in that area as well.
In terms of the middle school, you see quite a decrease this year, and really this was, you know, the idea of that hopefully we would have been in person this year, in terms of having kids in every day, and just some of the projects that some of our science teachers, tech teachers do couldn't necessarily either had to model it as like one project or have, you know, not do some of the different projects this year. So we were able to decrease again. I asked teams to really take a hard look at what they need each year, and they feel like they're prepared to continue though to keep offering those enriching things in next year, even with students, hopefully we'll be back in person full of all students in the building. At the high school level, again, a lot of those supplies you see really do meet different instructional needs. A lot of times in our, you know, family and consumer sciences, tech, science, where there are supply needs. So there was an increase here this year. Really, that was to help support our FACS program, which was a new program this past year in terms of some robotic babies. And then also one of our tech engineering class, an increase for some supplies needed for that class. With textbooks, you know, each year, again, our departments and our teams look at different needs they have. Particularly kind of actually K-12 right now, there's consumables with math. You know, so a lot of the textbook budget for both, you know, K-12, there's a decent amount there for consumables with our math program. But also, like, for example, elementary level, there is to update and replenish some of the classroom libraries. That's very similar in the middle school. And then, you know, the high school, again, is looking again, the biggest increase there for the high school this past year really was, again, some of the consumables for math. That's why you see a $1,900 increase.
BOCES services. So when possible, we purchase services through Questar or BOCES. These purchases generate aid the following year at a ratio of approximately 64%. This slide shows a summary of some of those. So just to give a couple of examples that are highlighted there, this cost includes all of the different programs that we send high school students to through Questar for CTE. So everything from aviation to culinary, welding, all those different CTE programs. Tech Valley High School, the students that attend that, as well as New Visions. Different examples at the elementary school, we have our science kits that are replenished every year, and that's a service that is also through a BOCES. And Nature's Classrooms, some of that funding comes through this area as well. As you'll notice, there is a significant change in this area. It's a decrease. Just to explain that a little bit, if you remember earlier this year, we shared with the board that we were transitioning away from our alternative learning program that for many years was partnered with Questar. So it was partially funded through BOCES codes. We brought that in-house fully. So while this shows a reduction in this area, there was actually an increase in salaries because we shifted that to an all in-house program and hired the teachers specifically as Greenville employees.
I just have a quick question, and it's there was a lot of discussion about consolidation, and BOCES was one of the items that the governor was looking at to consolidate our aid. So my question is, at what point in the process would we look at the potential impact of that? Because I know specifically BOCES was one of that
Services aid.
services that could significantly be impacted.
I would hope the advocacy efforts will be successful and that he will not be able to do that. It's something that they have recommended for years and years and years to collapse some of those, and BOCES aid seems to always be one that the governor has his eye upon changing. That would impact us, that if we were not getting our full BOCES aid on actual expenditures, we would have to look at that.
Okay.
Right now, I know there's a lot of advocacy against it.
Okay,
So
thank
we
you.
will see with his budget.
Hello, everyone. So our athletic programs still continue to be really competitive. We have 33 overall teams. We have 41 paid coaching positions, and we have 12 athletic programs that we offer to students. We continue to highlight our student athletes as much as we possibly can. This year, we've added in live streaming. We've also put links to like fall season games on the website for parents and others in the community. We continue to upgrade our equipment and our facilities. So if you look at the budget, the first one is the physical education budget. The equipment you'll see is going up by $4,000. These are for larger ticket items, anything over $1,000. Our elementary PE department needs a trapezoid vaulting box. The one they have is being taped together. And they're also looking for 2 portable basketball hoops. And down in the athletics, you're going to see an increase there for a slight increase for team supplies. That money is really being allocated for our track and field. This year we have the opportunity, your kids are going to have the first time opportunity to pole vault, but pole vault poles are based on weight, so we have to allocate some money in that area so we can get those poles for those kids based on their weight.
Denise, it's Tracy. Question for you. Right now, we're live streaming the different events. If that is well received, would we have money in the budget to continue with that service?
In the coming year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good answer.
No, they're not coming off of the wall, so yes, we can definitely do that in the future in both of the gyms.
The good things I'm hearing is grandparents are watching their grandchildren play for the first time. So this is one of the good things that has come out of our circumstance. So the way it works right now is there's a fee for anyone who's joining the live stream, which is, so we've put the equipment in, and that's the part of the agreement. Did I accurately state that?
That we don't get.
Oh, okay. So I went on it, and it is excellent quality. It's very good to watch, and we've heard positive comments. Okay.
Beautiful.
And I would say, just to add on to what Tammy was saying, is any games that are live streamed through the NFHS, whether they're collegiate, all the way down to high school, they have access to those if they pay that fee. So they could watch another game that, another volleyball game, a collegiate volleyball game if they have their system.
I have 2 raised hands. Go ahead, Jay.
Thanks. First, just a comment. I think it's great that the live streaming is available and it's been so well received. If grandparents or others are able to see the kids play for the first time, that's just wonderful. The question is, I'm curious with the pole vaulting. I assume that there are kids who've expressed interest. Denise, do you know how many might be interested to start with the program?
I do not, Jay. I don't have that information right now.
Okay. Well,
I'll find out more in the spring.
Understood. I think it's a good, sounds like a good new opportunity.
Go ahead, Duncan.
Couple of questions. One, you talked about pole vault, Denise.
Yep.
How about hurdles? Do we have hurdles?
Yes, all of that stuff is in the track storage building.
Okay. The Unified program, were we able to do anything with that this year?
I'm having a difficult time finding a coach for that.
Okay.
Sorry, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm having some internet issues this evening. So I apologize for my background and my house. But I'm here to talk about district transportation tonight. And, as you know, Greenville Central School District is a very large district. Our buses travel approximately 1,500 miles per day on all of our regular bus runs. We transport 1,137 students as of right now. And to put us into perspective, our neighboring district of Carroll covers about 109 square miles, and Ravenna, Queen, Selkirk covers about 90 square miles, so we're a pretty big district. Our bus routes, our regular runs, we have 26 daily routes, with one route going to West near elementary school, 3 early morning pickup routes. We also take care of requests our BOCES technical program, and Tech Valley High School as well. We have an AM and a PM route for our heavy equipment program, which is Questar based as well. We have one midday route that takes care of heavy equipment as well, which is a half-day program. We have shared services with neighboring school districts and Carroll Durham, Catskill, and Contractual Transportation. As you can see, we have several of them, which Janet and the contract situation, transportation people take care of as well. I have some transportation updates. We have 2 substitute drivers in training at this time. We are working hard to try to get them through the system, as DMV makes it a little bit difficult for us. We have 1 awaiting clearance to start training as well, so we're hoping to get him moving quickly. The stop arm cameras on the buses work amazing. When they're there, they catch the violations. Greene County sheriffs, depending on what county we are in, get contacted, and they are followed up on each occurrence. So we have no problems with them. They're wonderful. I have buses that have had issues where I've had to send them in to the violations to the Greene County or Albany County, and when it can't be continue to be clarified through them, I send it to DMV, so everything is working really well there. I've had 1 open route due to a driver's resignation, so what I did was temporarily absorb that route into a couple other routes, did a little bit of quick thinking so that we weren't having to cover that route for the rest of this year. As the capacity of the buses increase, as I said, it's temporary. Hopefully, we won't have to right now, but we may have to bring that route back on. Long-range replacement plan, we're rescheduled for 2022-23 school year to replace buses, which will be the summer of 2022. We're going to replace 8 buses and 2 vans, 1 to be wheelchair equipped. We used to have a van, and it comes in very handy in case of. Equipment increases, we have a 350-gallon lube tank that needs to be replaced. It has been sitting outside for a while, then now it is inside. August 2006 is when it was purchased, and it needs to be replaced. We also have a Vericom brake meter that is no longer serviceable. We will need to replace as the battery dies. And a 4-bar tire inflation cage is to be replaced, which was determined by Mike Needham, risk management, as the base is rusting and it's becoming quite dangerous. We have, I think we have Janet coming in here as well to talk about some of the BOCES prices or contract transportation.
So the drug and alcohol testing, that BOCES price is still an estimate, still the 3% increase, just waiting to find out what the actual is. And contract transportation, we're expecting to have a new child moving in, and we will have to create another route. Next slide? Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question about that. And I apologize, I know this has been discussed before and I don't remember. Can you talk to when a new route is created and for this particular new route, like under what circumstances do you have to create a new route? And for this one, I assume are you
It's for
retooling a couple to split it up?
It's for special education students that go to other school districts, private schools. Some of them, it all depends on their placement.
Okay.
The bus garage budget remains the same as this school year. For the other program budget components, we have a new service from Questar that started in the 2021 school year. It's the COVID testing. We do the testing, but we send the tests out to Questar for them to send it on to the state. We are also changing our Xerox machine down in the transportation office from Xerox, from a lease with Xerox. We're doing it now through Questar. This way we get some back. The other expenses, the tuition, we do have one child that we have found that has an increase in tuition, so we had to increase that line. For food service, we are really hoping that we can break even this year. Since we moved from the National School Lunch Program to the Summer Food Service Program, we are starting to see that we're catching up from the 2 months that we were in the National School Lunch Program. So we are hoping that as the months continue, that we will break even. We do have a positive fund balance right now. From last school year into this school year of $44,080. So we're really hoping that we do break even. We don't know what's going to happen next school year. It all depends on the USDA, if they're still going to allow us to be in the summer food service program, because there are different criterias. You have to have 50% of your households be free or reduced to belong to that program. This school year, they allowed a waiver so we could get into that program. So the reimbursement is a lot more money, and we can feed everybody at free. So we'll see what USDA says next school year.
Janet, just a quick question, and if you happen to know it, the participation since we've gone to, that we're participating in, everyone can have a free lunch. Have we seen an increase?
Elementary school, definitely.
Okay, I was just curious.
Definitely. We also, this year, we also serve lunch on half-days. Through this program, we're allowed to do that. The special aid fund, we have a transfer to federal for the summer handicapped 4408 program, where the district is responsible for 20% of the cost. We do not anticipate an increase in that area. And the next slide is just a reminder of all the next board meetings for the budget. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Mr. Chair, I have one question. I remember there was discussion a while ago of, I think the governor having the periodic reviews of revenue and potentially withholding some aid. I don't remember what happened to that or what the status is. Could you remind me?
The governor said that the school districts will be paid in full for all the 20% that they've withheld from us. We are getting there. We haven't received it all yet. I heard that BOCES received their 20%, so they promised that the check will be mailed on Friday. So, you know, it's coming in slowly. Checks in the mail.
But they've also said, correct me if I'm wrong, that we can probably anticipate a 5% overall deduction this year.
I've heard that
based
from
on
the-
the stimulus.
I've heard that from the governor, yes. But I've asked other, like state aid planning, and they don't anticipate that's going to be true. So we'll see.
I think it depends on the stimulus. My concern with the stimulus is the federal government's giving it as school funding, but the state government's going to take back and supplant it instead of having additional funds. And then I'm concerned, do we then have to jump through hoops and fill out grant applications to get the money that's really just going to be in place of the money that was taken? So we will see what happens with that.
I think there was even talk about equating it to the GEA back from 2012, where the gap elimination, so it's kind of the same sleight of hands.
Well, what they took out this year, we had to fill out grant applications. But I did put in my letter, I am going to start releasing some funding so that we don't get ourselves behind, especially long-range planning and equipment. We will start to purchase some of that to protect future budgets. If I have to freeze it in the future, we're not 2 years behind.
Any other questions?
Go ahead, Duncan.
I think he's frozen.
There he is.
Go ahead, Duncan.
Looks like he's trying to talk, but we don't hear him.
I can hear you, Duncan. He's asking if there's going to be an open or they're going to be adjourned. Can you hear me?
If there's going to be a what?
Can you repeat that, Mary?
He wants to know if you're gonna go to executive session.
Oh.
Yes.
That's a separate Google Meet.
Right, or it's going to be open.
He's looking for an open forum.
Oh,
That's next.
No more questions?
Okay.
I'd like to thank everybody for all their efforts to keep our numbers down this year. We will go to open forum.
So I don't have anything in my email. And I've got just our usual people on Google Meet. That's on staff. And I don't have YouTube up, so does anybody see any comments? Nothing? Okay, all right. Duncan, did you want to say something during open forum?
No, I wanted to know if we were gonna do it or go directly to the executive session, that's all.
No, we'll adjourn the meeting and then go to a separate Google Meet for the executive session.
Correct. And I was ready to move that we adjourn.
Oh, okay. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Duncan.
Okay, Dave, I need a second. Eric?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
You
All right.
too.
Thank you.
See the board in a few minutes. Oh, that was very quick, Janet. You're not